on this very hot day, today we're going to talk about prepping again. You're going to be seeing a bunch of videos about prepping because I'm back to prepping. Now, maybe not quite as much as what you're used to seeing in the previous years, but prepping can take on a whole different meaning when you prep for everything in life. So what are we prepping for? Political unrest? Civil unrest? The weather? Well, anything you can imagine we're prepping for. Take a look at this. Our temperatures are extremely high, and that's in the shade. So what we're prepping for is anything that comes our way. Of course, we can't be totally prepped, but there are things that we can do today that can help us with prepping. I got a huge load of laundry on my wash line, and I had to even double layer it at some places simply because I ran out of room. But let's get talking in today's video about prepping, and I'm going to show you different ways that I am prepping. And we have a record drought right now. We have not had rain for over 5 weeks. It might even be longer. So at the taping of this video, it's pretty rough out there, and I'm praying that we will get rain. But let's go ahead and talk about prepping. So on my channel, I don't talk about politics, but as with the current events that took place, we have to start thinking about prepping and thinking about it in a way that's not scary. So I'm not going to go in here and tell you, you know, in 30 days this is going to happen, or at the November election this is going to happen, and we're going to have this happen and that happen. I'm not going to say any of that stuff because that's all hearsay and you don't really know. But what I can tell you is prepping can come in many forms. So what I like to do in my homestead, I'm prepping food. I am prepping also in medical supplies, also prepping in knowledge. And knowledge is really important because I have a whole garden of herbs, all kinds of herbs. But do I know what those herbs do, and how can I use those herbs for medicine? And so garlic, I harvested garlic, and so now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to pull the garlic up and harvest that. I planted the garlic. Also, a lot of herbs and things like that. So it's not just food. You're going to be seeing on my channel where I talk about food and prepping with food and going just to the regular grocery store and getting food. And how can you prep that for long-term storage? So I want to share a bunch of things with you today and a lot of video clips. This is going to be more of a thorough type of teaching to all of you. And you know, you have to think ahead of time. And so if you never prepped before, with everything that's happened in the last couple years, you will never prep. And that's okay. There are some people that don't believe in prepping. And there are some people like me who love to prep. I started prepping in 2015. And when I started prepping, I was prepping for just everyday life. When I ever had a little bit of money I scratched together, I ended up getting 2 items. That way, when things were really bad in our life as far as finances, I had extra. Then I really got into prepping when all of the things started happening before 2020. When 2020 hit, there was no problems with me. I could have stayed away from the grocery store for a year, even longer. But I want to show you some things in tangible ways, what prepping has helped us right now in this time that we're living in, because in the last month, I had to rely on my rain barrels. Now, my rain barrels are something that it's $90. If you save $10 a month, you can get it in 9 months, and it will last you a lifetime. So let me show you this. I have talked and talked and talked till I was blue in the face about getting rain barrels, and I cannot say it even stronger, because rain barrels have really changed my life in many ways. So we had our plumbing done. We had our water turned off for days at a time. And with the rain barrel, I was able to flush our toilet. I was able to wash clothing. I have done many videos where I showed washing clothing by hand with the rain barrel. I was able to wash my dishes with the rain barrel. I do treat the rain barrel with some chlorine tablets, very small chlorine tablets. 1 chlorine tablet will treat this up to about 8 weeks. And in about 24 hours, you won't even smell the chlorine that much. It does evaporate. But that is how I can wash my dishes because it sanitizes it. So rain barrels are very important. And stuff is not that expensive, only if you prepare ahead of time. 14 years ago, we bought this wash line for $80. This wash line, I saved hundreds of dollars a year on that wash line. My whole life has been about prepping. Everything I do has some kind of prepping involved in it. If you just take a good look. Right now, I have a loaf of bread that's rising in my greenhouse. Right now, I have the wash hanging on the line. I have water in my rain barrel. I have all of these things. Now, modern conveniences are amazing. I love having the air conditioning. I have the air conditioner on. But if ever time would happen where I wouldn't have electricity, I could keep going on life as normal, except for not having the air, which would be horrible, especially in the weather now. But I cook with propane, and I can cook off-grid. I also have a pizza oven outside, where I actually have an oven outside where you're going to be seeing me do videos of cooking outside. So I also have that. There's just so many things that we can do that have to do with prepping. Prepping not in fear. So you're going to be seeing a lot of videos where I talk about prepping in an aspect of no fear. Because if you're fearful, you end up freezing up and not doing anything. If you're fearful, you end up just wasting all of your money on things, and you waste all of your money and you don't even use the items. Prepping has to be an everyday thing. Another thing I like to do is use oil lanterns. Oil lanterns also help produce heat in my home, and that is a way that I prep. I have 1 year's worth of kerosene oil that I use in my oil lamps, and I have many tutorials on that. So this is just a little idea about prepping, and now I'm going to show you some more video clips of things that I do that have to do with prepping. I'm really excited to share with you every aspect of prepping, whether you are in your 20s, 40s, or your 80s, whether you have a garden or whether you don't have any land. There's so many things you can do to be more self-sufficient and to prep. Now, there are long-term preppers and there are short-term preppers. There are pioneer preppers, and then there are the other kind of preppers where they get most of their food from the grocery store. I'm a little bit of it mixed, so I should have a bumper crop of potatoes. So far, everything is looking really good. I had onions that I dried, and I also have some green beans that I was able to can, and you will be seeing some canning videos. As you know, I've been prepping my whole life, basically my whole married life, but really got into it in 2007. So I have a lot of items to prep. How about going to the grocery store with me and actually me prepping in the store? So these are going to be a lot of fun projects. So let's see what else did I do this week that had to do with prepping. Okay, so what you're looking at here is my water system. So as you can see that there is a filter that comes with your rain barrel, but then I have other things on top of it. So let me go ahead and show you that. First off, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean this little filter. So we had a rain shower, and I absolutely am so glad that I was able to film that, because that way I can show you exactly how this works. So I have that little pot that I put on top, and it has a hole in it. So the water comes out of the spouting into that little pot, and then that pot will filter out the water to a certain degree, and then the water gets filtered again. The small particles get filtered out. So leaves and debris never get into the second filter. We have a rain shower. Now I can show you the water is crystal clear at the end. So this part of the video I filmed in May, so you would be able to see how it all works. So let me show you some other video clips, and they are not all recent, but they are within the last 3 months. Many people will look at my garden and say, oh, that's such a beautiful flower garden. Actually, it's not really a flower garden. While there are flowers in my garden, each flower has its certain purpose. I am cutting right now feverfew. So feverfew is an amazing herb that can be made into a tea to help if you have migraine headaches. Now, of course, with all of these herbs, you need to make sure you know what medications you are taking, because herbs are medicine. And herbs can react and interact with modern man-made medicines. But I don't have any medications that I am taking other than what I produce for myself. And this is feverfew. Beautiful flower, isn't it? But the flowers and the leaves can be made into a tea, or you can actually chew on a couple leaves if you have a migraine. Also will help with a fever as well. That's why it's called feverfew. Now you will see all kinds of other things. And one thing you need to be careful is there are some plants that are actually toxic to you. In other words, foxglove is a medication that is made out of that for your heart, but it can be deadly. I would never, never, never use foxglove, because foxglove there with the pretty pink flowers, that you don't want to use. So you need to know what the herbs are and what you can do with them. Right in front of me is lovage, and that is a little green herb that you see there, and that is in replace of celery. So of course you can use that. You have to be knowledgeable when you do any foraging. You have to be knowledgeable when you do any of your own herbal planting and harvesting. All of these things you have to know on your own. But once you know all of these things, it can be so eye-opening of what you can do to help yourself. I talk about my studio. If you look really close, every single item in my studio can be used for prepping. Everything. So you can have something very pretty to look at, and it still can be prepping. It doesn't have to be hordes of food locked away in a basement in 5-gallon buckets. You can prep and have it look pretty too. It's all about pretty prepping. I am growing things every single day, and I'm doing it just about 12 months out of the year. So from January, well, let's go back. So from December, January, and February, I cannot grow anything. But from November, I'm growing things, and March, I'm growing things. Here is my Berkey water filter, and I have that outside right now because I am doing some work and a lot of canning, and I just put it outside. But that really helps us with our water too. So I have a loaf of bread in here rising. Everywhere you look, I'm growing food. Everywhere. Herbs and spices. Herbs can really help a dish of like rice and beans. If you have some herbs with that, it can turn your dish into something edible. People often forget that seasonings are amazing, because seasonings can really change your food and your dish. And you can take something really bland and you can turn it into something really yummy. Let's see what else I've done in the last week that has to do with prepping. So what I'm doing is I am making all of my seasoning mixes, and let me show you how that's done step by step really quickly here at the end of this video. So it's not just merely growing something, it's actually tending to it and making it into a product that you can have on your shelf. I am chopping up these herbs that I dried. So what you are looking at is some tea, mint, and I use mint for all kinds of tinctures. I also use it for tea. So what we have now is, that is the loose leaf. Now we're going to go through it and we pick out all the stems. It takes a little time, but it's a fun project, and that will last me a whole year. And now to make it finer, you're going to go and put it through a sieve. So I just take my hands, and this will make it finer. And this is if you are making some herbs for cooking. So the tea can be a larger leaf, but now with the oregano and the thyme, all of that needs to be sifted really clean and really fine. And at the end, you have a finished product that's fresher and better and cheaper than any grocery store seasoning that you could buy. Could you do me one big favor, please? I ask. Could you please give a thumbs up to this video? These are very hard to make, and I really would like to see some of these videos get pushed out a little more. See you guys tomorrow.